UConn Nation, can Hassan Diarra take that next step? You're Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. A little housekeeping. My YouTube support, absolutely amazing. I'd love to have all my subscribers download the audio version as well, wherever you get your podcast. So if you can do me two quick favors, first, click that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen. Click it. Then head over to Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and hit that follow button. This way you'll never miss a moment of Locked On UConn. I think it's so important to do it now as we come closer to the season, having more potential player interviews, coach interviews, recaps of games. You don't want to miss what's coming down the pike. Can't tell you how much that support means to me. Drop us a 5-star review if you haven't already. Would love to get us some new audience members based off of you guys giving us some reviews. I know at least 20, 25 of you guys have already done it, so we'd love to double that before the season starts. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Well, I asked a question that I'll answer myself. Can Hassan Diarra take that next step? UConn's fifth-year point guard, leading the charge for a third national title. But before we answer that question, let's take a look at the road that led Hassan to UConn, and really looking for something that not few men have done at any level of college basketball, going for a third straight national title. None in this NIL transfer portal era. Hassan's background is he's a Queens, New York native, but he went to Putnam Science Academy in Putnam, Connecticut, where his team won the national prep championships in 2019 and 2020. He scored close to 1,500 points during his high school career, setting a school record. Pretty sure it still stands. He had some pretty notable achievements in college. Obviously, winning titles is the biggest one, but he was a 4-star recruit that committed to Buzz Williams and his 3-piece suits over at Texas A&M. If you do not know Buzz Williams, I don't think Hassan left Buzz. Don't know the whole story with it, because Buzz doesn't try to get the best out of his players. That dude's a walking quote. If you cover him, I bet you that's a fun job, because if you need a pick-me-up, he's got some damn good pressers. What a salesman. Hassan and his A&M teammates lost to Memphis in the NIT title game in 2022. The following season, he transferred to UConn. His decision to sorry for the stutter. His decision to transfer to UConn, factors really influencing the move were you could immediately transfer. His brother is the director of player development, Mamadou. And it was like, you know how there are some platitudes or sayings that people have, like fits like a glove, takes like a duck to water. Hassan is that for UConn. I said it on a show a long time ago during the season. Whenever Hassan's in the game, he gives a calming influence to me as a fan. And so now that he is the lead dog, I feel really comfortable. I wasn't sure that Danny was going to have him be the starter, but the more I thought about it, the more it was like, how do you not start the kid? A lot of people said that from the beginning. It took me a little longer. He averaged 6 points, 3 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, and almost a steal a game, and almost a half a block a game, which is wild. He was the Big East Sixth Man of the Year. He played an average of 18 to 22 minutes a game. Leader, calming influence, headband Haas, key individual games, scoring 20 points against Georgetown, 18 points in a crucial win over Villanova. His role and his contributions. When I think about Hassan, I think distributor, disruptor, finishing at the rim, attacking when necessary, keeping his dribble and forcing guys to come off of him so he can hit shooters on dribble drives. If Haas can be patient this year, his 2.4 assists can jump to a huge number, 6 to 7 assists a game. That's not an overstatement, considering the minutes he'll probably play, especially if he's in the starting lineup as projected. If it's him, Aiden at the shooting guard, or solo. Liam McNeely at small forward or Jalen Stewart. Alex Garabin at power forward. And then Sampson or Terrace. Whoever he's in there with, he'll have 3, potentially 4 plus 3-point shooters. And right there with that initial projected starting lineup, that's a lethal trio of shooters. And if they don't come off shooters, you make them pay with your ability to drive and finish at the rim. It's human nature for teams to eventually help, especially when a guy beats a guy off the dribble. Even if coaches try to have them stay at home, only super disciplined teams like us against Purdue will hold their water for a whole game. So, what does that mean? He's an experienced 2-time national champion and Big East champion. I can't understate that enough. To get a player of Hassan's character and ability to come off the bench is a masterclass by Dan Hurley and his staff. And having his brother as the director of player development doesn't hurt one bit. What's his playing style? I said a disruptor. I think his ability to get that quick first step, his shooting ability came such a long way. Like I held my breath when he first started shooting for UConn, when he started to get a little more run in the 23 season. And then he started making everything. He was always a good finisher. Queens kid, good high school basketball player, 6'2", strong, tough. And then there's that defensive prowess. All of that was offense. Maybe his disrupting quality was the defensive side. But he is essentially our Ricky Moore of this era. Same size, not a great shooter, but a capable shooter. And from a stat perspective, he's a better shooter than Ricky. His defensive stats impact the game a ton. He's able to guard multiple positions, even though he's shorter than some of the guards that UConn has had over the years. And he's a disruptor to his opponents. He's like a little gnat. Like, and I don't mean that in small. Like he's just like, you want him to get off. You want him to get off you. And that to me is so important for Dan Hurley. And I put this in my notes. As they are looking for this team chemistry, he has to create that chemistry with Ahmad as his backup and heir apparent. I think he's no doubt going to be asked to be a vocal and head of the snake of UConn's offense, but from a distribution standpoint and an elite on-ball defender to up his minutes and provide not just a spark, because that's the biggest thing is like, that's my biggest concern with him and Sampson being in the starting lineup is do we lose that spark off the bench? I know we're a lot deeper this year, but it's a different animal to start the game than it is to kind of pop off the bench and just be that, to use it just a same term, to be a spark plug or to be a catalyst, right? So how can he sustain that energy for 25 to 30 minutes a game? I hope so. And I don't doubt it. These kids are in the best shape of their lives. So I think he's going to be a pivotal reason why they're going to be competing for the Big East championship, why he will start and even play probably a little some off the ball. Like if you wanted to go like super fast, super quick defensive, disruptive, active hands, you could have Ahmad on the ball and him off the ball or vice versa. I think I'm going to use this term again, positional versatility. He provides that. He's not 6'7" with a 6'10" wingspan like Jaden Ross, who we talked about yesterday, but he's damn good and he's won some titles. So I think personal and team goals for the upcoming season team goals are clear, right? Big East regular season championship, Big East title, national championship. I think if Hassan can make one of the all Big East teams this year, that would be a nice jump in improvement. And I don't see why he can't compete for that. I think the theme for all of the men coming back is to build off of what they did individually and to get better and provide a jump in their productivity considering what they lost. And I've heard Dan Hurley say this quite a bit. They don't need to be the players that we used to have. Sorry, that wasn't even a yawn. That was me like acid reflux. But to get to my point, Hassan Diarra does not need to be Tristan Newton. He doesn't need to be Cam Spencer. He doesn't need to be Jordan Hawkins. And he certainly doesn't need to be Talik Brown or Ricky Moore, some of the greatest UConn Huskies of all time. He's already one of the greatest Huskies of all time by winning 2 titles. What he needs to do is up his production a little bit more. Could he double his stats? Could he be a 12-point scorer? Could be a 10-point scorer? I'm more interested in getting that 3 assists a game to 6 or to 7. That would in the aggregate, when we put all of these pieces together, that would make them an unstoppable team next season. Well, we're going to talk about who he compares to, and then third segment, one of my favorite preparations for any show was a classic UConn game. All of that coming up after this. Hey, UConn fans, my Yankees are back, and summer's the perfect time to catch a Major League Baseball game. I love the ballpark. I wish I could get to a Yankee game this year, at least at home. But if not, I'm looking at other places. One of my best memories is a walk-off home run by the incomparable Don Mattingly. This year, I'm looking forward to more great memories, and Game Time is a way to get your tickets. Game Time is an authorized Major League Baseball ticket marketplace that makes getting tickets easy. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down as the game gets closer. You're actually getting rewarded for procrastination. I found amazing deals on Game Time for upcoming Major League Baseball games, like my Yankees, but there's also Red Sox and Mets games. If you're in the South, Atlanta Braves games. You can see all of this in view from your seat before you buy. And their all-in pricing means no surprise fees. Plus, with flash deals and zone deals, you can save up to 60% last minute. Check out Game Time for easy, convenient ticket buying and great deals. Download the app and make unforgettable memories at the ballpark. All right, we're back on Locked On UConn. Hassan Diarra, comparisons in UConn and some comparisons in college basketball, who his comps are. For me, there's 2 UConn guards that he matches up with, not only his stature of his size, but also the way he plays. As a floor general, as his, they both played this position of like spark plug. And then when they were seniors, they led their team to national championships. So that's the reason why I feel like these 2 gentlemen are where Haas wants to be. And I think he's like a mixture of them. I think you guys will know exactly who I'm talking about. So number 1 is Talik Brown. He was a UConn guard from 2000 to 2004. Absolute leader on the court. Talik was a floor general. Clutch performances, similar to DR's role in guiding the team. Defensively, both players are known for their defensive tenacity. I believe both are from Queens, and the ability to pressure the ball. While I pause for a second. Talik Brown. Yeah, Queens guard. I mean, I knew that, but I just wanted to double check it. So yes, Talik was a Queens guy, just like Hassan. And then friend of the program, my guy that, is living down south like I do, Ricky Moore, 6'2", played a huge pivotal role in UConn's first national championship, Talik in their second in 1999. Vocal leader, defensive leader, contributed both significantly on both sides of the court. And when they needed him offensively, similar to Talik Brown, because Talik wasn't a great shooter and he was certainly not a go-to guy. And I wouldn't consider Hassan that either. But capable is what he is. These guys were all scorers in high school. They all know how to put the ball in the hole. It's about the role they play. And all of them are capable. Known for his lockdown defense. All of these guys, much like DR, disrupts opponents. Active hands, moving his feet. Quick hands, stealing the ball. Not just active hands like, Cam Spencer that had to like anticipate. I'm talking like move your feet, get like beating someone to the spot. And that's no disrespect to Cam. Love him. Hassan is a stud on defense. If he was 6'6", he'd be a top 4 pick like Steph Castle. He didn't win the genetic Olympics in terms of his height, but he certainly is quick and he's definitely a capable defensive player. Those are my 2 UConn comps. The other one is there's 2 guys that both played at Baylor and both won national championships. So like all these guys are title contenders or title winners. Davion Mitchell, who now plays for Sacramento, his nickname was Off Night because he would often shut down the opponent's best player. And if UConn's offense is super talented, even without Hassan putting up better numbers than last year, that could literally just be Hassan's biggest assignment is to say, okay, whoever the point guard is in the other team, we're shutting him down with Hassan. He could be our off night. The other aspect is he led, and Davion was a big member of the Baylor national championship team and Scott Drew in 2021 with his leadership and defensive prowess, and he was a capable shooter, and he's gotten better as time goes on. Jared Butler, a little bigger guard, 6'3", was also at Baylor, won a national championship with them in 2021. He was a clutch shooter and also an absolute stud defender. Are you catching on with what I'm talking about? Hassan is an absolute floor general. He is going to have an all-around impact on the game, and I am so excited to see him lead this team to a potential third straight national championship, potential second straight Big East championship. So, yeah, all the boxes are checked. Heart, defensive prowess, offensive ability on both shooting and taking it to the rim. He's surprisingly tough around the rim in terms of his size, kind of getting hit, making shots through contact. So all of these reasons why I believe Hassan is going to be a huge reason why UConn is in the mix again for a national championship. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you campus analysis and opinions and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He could remind you of nobody, but he is damn sure going to be doing his thing, starting and leading his Huskies on their quest for a three-peat. We'll talk about one of my favorite classic UConn games coming up after this. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Okay, we're back on Locked On UConn. This is a blast from the past that I think I talked about this a long time ago. If you haven't heard it from me, maybe I demoed when I did a demo tape for Locked On Podcast Network. I think I talked about this game. So, and it's because we honored the 2004 national championship team this year, and it was around that time where they were the Xavier game where they just showed out and were as dominant as that team was that year. April 3rd, 2004, national semifinals in none other than San Antonio. See that national championship? See, I'm even pointing to the right one. Where's the Final Four again this year? San Antonio. I'll see you guys there. Highlights of the game. Emeka Okafor's foul trouble. UConn star center, national player of the year, had 2 quick fouls and picked up his 3rd foul in the first half. I mean, in the second half, very early. So he had, I think he had to play. He played 18 to 22 minutes, something like that. So Coach Jim Calhoun decided to bench Okafor strategically to preserve him for crucial moments of the game. And we're going to get down to like the actual play-by-plays of this because I love this game so much, and I ended up watching some of it today to refresh my memory. But some of it just kind of came all flushing back because I know exactly where I was. Jim Calhoun just had this ability, this kind of FU mentality. Like, listen, FU, this is my style, and we're going to do this, and it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, it's on me. And that's why he outcoached Krzyzewski 2 times in Final Fours. Because when it came to the 99 team in Elton Brand, UConn went big to big doubles, and versus having any shooters come down to not free up William Avery or Trajan Langdon. And that's just something that teams didn't do at that time. I'm not saying it was revolutionary, but it surprised them. And Elton Brand was a good passer out of the post, but it was like, where are the lanes? Like, if you have Jake Voskuhl and Kevin Freeman guarding you, like who's cutting to the basket? It just really kind of threw a wrench into what Duke thought UConn was going to do. And in this scenario, it was almost like, cool, you can take the lead. We know that you're going to because we're without our best player. But he demonstrated a level of patience that I don't think I could ever have if I was ever trying to coach or really do anything. Because just think about this. UConn trailed for a grip on this game. They were down 7 at halftime. They were down by as many as 11 points. They trailed by 8 points with 3:28 left in the game, but rallied back, with Okafor playing a huge role in that, as well as others, right? Ben Gordon was huge. Rashad Anderson hit a couple of really clutch three-pointers, crucial three-pointers. So before I get into like the game summaries and some of the things that I remember personally, just want to say thank you for making Locked On your first listen, Locked On UConn your first listen of the day. But as we get closer to football season, your second listen of the day, enjoy Locked On College Football with your boy, Spencer McLaughlin. That dude gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. His discussions on upcoming season, that with ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the failing ACC, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, our upcoming UConn football show, August 16th, a football free-for-all Friday with the guys from the TNT podcast crew. So back to this classic UConn game with about, I believe it was 6 minutes to go. UConn cut it to 63-60. It was just under 7 minutes. So it was under the 8-minute timeout. And God, if you look at this, I'm looking at this screenshot of a game score. They were shooting 48% from the floor and holding Duke to only 41%. They had 16 turnovers, and Duke capitalized for 21 points off 16 turnovers. So not a ton of capitalization from Duke, but enough to give them a lead. Okafor being in foul trouble was a big part. And then Duke kind of had this little sprint where JJ hit 2 threes, Daniel Ewing hit a big three, and it was 70-62 Duke with 5:15 to play. So that's 7-0 run. Calhoun takes a timeout. Sets up now at this point, Sheldon Williams, their All-American power forward, who was kind of like, a college equal of Okafor. Not really, but in their eyes. Calhoun calls a timeout. They're down 8. Sets up a play for Okafor, who gets initially fouled because he was like, listen, I'm going to give the ball to my best player. And he calls timeout, sets up a play. Williams predictably fouls out because he was more of a bruiser. That was with 5:04 to go. Enter Shavlik Randolph, RIP Shavlik Randolph. Duke gets it back to about a 9-point game with 4:03 to play. Rashad bangs a 3, cuts it to 6. Then Luol Deng misses a 1-and-1. Then he misses a 3. Rashad Anderson cuts it to 5 with another 3. Daniel Ewing misses a jumper. At this point, I'm watching this highlights today. Billy Packer is incredulous talking about shot selection. It just made me laugh. Notorious UConn hater Billy P. I'm pretty sure he's passed. I don't want to say anything ill of the dead, but I have to in terms of Billy Packer because, yes, he passed away in 2023. Again, I have nothing against Billy Packer. My memories of Billy Packer are my father being like, "Oh man, freaking Billy Packer hates UConn." It just made me laugh. So that's my memory of him, is that he was a notorious UConn hater. So Gordon knocks down a 2, cuts it to 75-72. Great team defense, leads to a loose ball that Josh Boone dives on, calls timeout. Now we come to a media timeout, or I forget if Duke calls a timeout. Game reset. UConn's down 3 with 1:35 to go. Duke has 1 timeout. Everyone's in the plus bonus. Possession arrow to Duke. So I'm watching this 8-2 run by the Huskies over the last 3:15. Okafor, easy turnaround jump hook over Horvath. RIP Shavlik Randolph. RIP Chris Horvath. Okafor takes control. That's what you get for keeping in your players for stretches where a little bit of hubris on Coach K. And I'm nervous watching this highlight because it took me back to, I was a tennis pro out in Southern California. I was at Sunset Hills Country Club, if you know where that is. It's in Thousand Oaks, California, up by the Reagan Library. And that's pretty close to the Kardashian land of Calabasas and all that stuff. So it was a really swanky club. And they had a nice clubhouse where, this was 3 hours, or a couple hours ahead because I'm on the West Coast at that time. And I didn't leave. I just, because if I went home, I was going to be stuck in traffic and I would have missed this game. So I'm watching this at work. And so I'm nervous. Duke has the ball up 1, and I don't know. I don't know the outcome. Luol Deng misses a 3-pointer from the wing, and UConn gets possession. I think it went over the backboard, etc. Right. So now this play where UConn takes the lead 76-75, Josh Boone doesn't get enough credit. Or if he does, I haven't heard too many people talk about it. He is a big reason why UConn was in position and in possession because he held water for Emeka, and who's in foul trouble for most of this game. To leak drives, he blows by Chris Duhon. Dishes a great pass to Okafor on his left. Surprised they didn't call a charge because we're playing Duke, and that's what Duke does. They sit under the basket before that little circle, and they get BS charges. So Okafor misses an absolutely easy layup. But this is, and I paused it. This was so interesting. It's hanging on the rim. I know it's about to fall off, but if you look at the positioning of the players, you got Luol Deng's got Josh Boone boxed completely out. You have JJ Redick and Chris Horvath trying to get Okafor out of the play, who just shot. But because the shot was so soft off the rim, it allowed Boone to reposition himself and use his height to tip the ball back. And somehow over 3 Duke players, Emeka gets the loose ball and lays it in. It's still one of the wildest things ever. It's almost like he ripped the ball away from the Luol Deng and put it in. Coach K calls timeout. Jim Nantz says, how about Josh Brown? We all know it was Josh Boone, future first-round pick. What a play by the freshman at that time. And they're showing surrender cobras of Duke players all over the place. Oh, no. Coach K calls timeout. They run a play for JJ Redick. But the first thing that comes to mind is when it comes to JJ is shooting. And so I didn't think they ran a good enough play to get him the type of shot. They're down 1. They're not down 3. He doesn't need to take a 3. But Rashad Anderson does an amazing job, overplays it. So JJ would have to put the ball on the floor. JJ tries to take it all the way to the hoop. Terrible decision. Rashad strips the ball. From my bias angle, it looks clean, but who gives a rip? It's just funny to go back and watch Coach K lose his mind because he didn't get a call. Rashad calmly hits 2 because he gets the loose ball. We're up 3. Redick comes up short, and Okafor is fouled on a rebound. And my dad, when he hated this when Billy Packard did games, he says when they're showing Jim Calhoun, Jim feels like he's really dodged one here. What? It's the Final Four. What did he dodge? If anything, this would have been the moment where a non-biased journalist, whether it would be Jim Nantz or who I don't even, maybe it's Jay Wright, who's a huge UConn fan, a fan of Danny Hurley in that respect, he would have said something like, man, if you really go back and look at this game, when Calhoun made the decision to let Okafor sit and hold water and trust his team, that was the reason why they ended up winning this game. And kudos to the players that held water for him. And man, kudos to Jim Calhoun. What a set of cojones he had on to not play your players with 3 fouls. So surrender Cobras all for the Dukies, and UConn scores the last 11 points, shuts down Duke scoreless for 4 minutes and 40 seconds. If you don't count the Chris Duhon little floater at the end of the game. Incredible performance from Jim Calhoun to save Emeka, and short-sighted arrogance by the chosen one, Coach K, who only had Chris Horvath, poor Chris Horvath, as his only front court player to end the game. And Billy Packard gleefully loving Chris Duhan's last-second runner to cut the game to 1. I think Billy bet on the game. God rest his soul. 79-78 Huskies, on to the title game to destroy Georgia Tech and get the second national title in UConn history. Guys, that was one of my favorite games to watch, and my co-workers at the time saw why I have a hard time being in public or anywhere when I'm watching a UConn Huskies game. Maybe this year, because I am not in the state of Connecticut. When I watch a game this year, I will have my wife video live stream me watching a game, and you guys can all partake in my insanity. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked in, stay connected, make sure your toughness meter is always rising. And as always, go Huskies.